Staff Sergeant Maya Chun's hands shake as she strips down the M4 rifle, but not from nerves from the flashback that hit her when she saw the weapon's serial number. It's the same model she used 3 years ago when her submarine team was ambushed by something that shouldn't exist. The rifle jams because the firing pin is bent at an impossible angle, twisted like metal shouldn't twist. The armory at Forward Operating Base Sentinel hums with the constant vibration of generators, but Maya hears something else beneath the mechanical. Drone a rhythmic pulsing that matches her heartbeat like sonar pings echoing through deep water. She forces herself to focus on the weapon in front of her, using the familiar ritual of disassembly to anchor herself in the present. Each component comes apart with practiced precision: mold carrier group, charging handle, buffer spring. The metal feels cold against her fingertips, nothing like the bioluminescent surfaces she once touched in the crushing darkness of the Mariana Trench. The firing pin shouldn't be damaged this way. Maya holds it up to the fluorescent light, studying the spiral twist in the hardened steel. She's seen this pattern before, not in any weapons manual, but carved into the hull of the research vessel Kesto after they hauled it up from 12,000 feet below sea level. The official report blamed metal fatigue and pressure differential. But Maya knows better. She knows what kind of strength it takes to twist military-grade steel like taffy, and it doesn't come from ocean pressure. Her reflection stares back from the rifle's scope, and Maya instinctively touches the thin scar across her throat. To anyone else, it looks like a childhood accident or maybe shrapnel from an IED. They don't see the faint gill slits that still open when she holds her breath too long, or notice how her eyes have adapted to see clearly in near-total darkness. The experimental modifications were supposed to make her team the perfect deep-sea operatives able to breathe underwater for extended periods, see in the abyssal depths, and withstand pressures that would crush normal humans. Instead, they made her into something caught between two worlds, neither fully human nor adapted enough to survive. What they found waiting in the deep. Maya's fingers find a hidden Kraken patch sewn inside her tactical vest, tracing the embroidered tentacles that seem to writhe under her touch. It's the only physical proof that Operation Deep Strike ever existed. Everything else was classified beyond recognition, buried under layers of national security and plausible deniability. Her service record shows a training accident during a routine submarine exercise, followed by medical discharge for acute stress reaction with dissociative episodes. The 12 other members of her unit are listed as killed in action. Their bodies never recovered from the equipment malfunction that supposedly flooded their compartment. But Maya remembers the truth. She remembers the moment their submarine's lights illuminated, the massive structure rising from the ocean floor, not built by human hands, but grown like coral, pulsing with its own internal light. She remembers the sound that came through the hull, a frequency so low it made their bones vibrate and their modified nervous system scream in recognition. Most of all, she remembers the things that came out of that structure, moving through the water with impossible grace, their forms shifting between familiar and utterly alien. The rifle's trigger assembly comes apart in her hands, each spring and pin cataloged and set aside. Maya has rebuilt thousands of weapons since her transfer to the Army, finding peace in the mechanical precision required to make instruments of war function properly. It's honest work, unlike the lies she tells herself every night about why she survived when her teammates didn't. Unlike the stories she's constructed to explain the dreams that aren't dreams, where she swims through underwater cities, older than human civilization, and hears voices calling her name in languages that predate speech. A drop of blood hits the metal workbench, and Maya realizes she's been gripping the twisted firing pin hard enough to cut her palm. The blood spreads across the steel surface in patterns that remind her of the bioluminescent trails the creatures left in their wake. She quickly wipes it away with a shop rag, but the stain seems to resist removal. clinging to the metal like it belongs there. The armory door creaks, and Maya's enhanced hearing picks up the approaching footsteps before they become audible to normal ears. Two sets, one heavy and measured, the other lighter and quick. Military bearing in both, but the heavier steps carry an authority that makes Maya's modified nervous system tingle with recognition. She's learned to trust these instincts since her transformation. They've kept her alive when conventional senses would have failed. Maya quickly reassembles the rifle, her hands moving with the fluid efficiency that's made her the best weapons technician on base. But as she works, she can't shake the feeling that her carefully constructed new life is about to collapse. The twisted firing pin sits on the workbench like an accusation, its spiral pattern catching the light in ways that hurt to look at directly. She knows she should dispose of it, file a routine equipment failure report, and pretend she never noticed the impossible damage. Instead, she slips the pin into her pocket, next to the Kraken patch that burns against her ribs like a brand. Some evidence is too important to destroy, even when keeping it might mean facing truths she spent 3 years trying to forget. As the footsteps grow closer, Maya straightens her vest and prepares to meet whatever comes through that door, knowing that her past is finally caught up with her present. General Patricia Hawthorne enters expecting routine inspection, but freezes when she sees Maya's technique. The woman is reassembling the rifle using movements that match classified footage from the Mariana incident. When Maya's vest shifts and reveals the Kraken tentacle embroidery, the general's hand moves to her sidearm. She's read Maya's heavily redacted file, knows about the training accident that killed 12 elite operatives and left one survivor babbling about the old gods. Rising, the general approaches slowly, speaking a code phrase that makes Maya drop the rifle. The deep remembers its children. Maya's eyes go wide with terror and recognition. Someone else knows the truth about what's sleeping in the ocean trenches, and why her team was really sent to wake it up. The rifle clatters to the concrete floor, its freshly assembled components scattering like shrapnel. Maya's enhanced reflexes, honed by years of underwater combat training, fail her completely as the code phrase hits her nervous system like an electric shock. Her modified vocal cords produce a sound that's part gasp, part sonar ping, a noise no fully human throat should make. The general's aide, a young lieutenant with regulation haircut and nervous energy, starts forward at the sound, but Hawthorne stops him with a raised hand that never wavers from her sidearm. "Stand down, Morrison. Wait outside." The general's voice carries the kind of authority that ends careers, and the lieutenant retreats without question, sealing the armory door behind him. The electronic lock engages with a soft beep that sounds unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. Maya backs against the workbench, her fingers instinctively seeking the twisted firing pin in her pocket. The metal feels warm against her palm, almost alive, and she realizes with growing horror that it's responding to the general's presence. "You're not supposed to know that phrase," she whispers, her voice carrying harmonics that make the fluorescent lights flicker. That was Kraken specific. Level Black classification. General Hawthorne removes her service cap, revealing silver hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes the color of deep ocean water. There's something familiar about those eyes, something that makes Maya's modified nervous system scream warnings she doesn't understand. Level Black doesn't exist anymore, Sergeant Chun. It was dissolved 3 years ago, along with every other classification related to Operation Deep Strike. Officially, you and your team never existed. Then how do you? Maya's question dies, as the general steps closer and she catches a scent that shouldn't be possible in the desert air of Afghanistan. Salt water, kelp, the metallic tang of blood mixed with brine. Her enhanced senses, designed to function in the crushing depths of the ocean, detect pheromone traces that speak of predators moving through dark water. Because I was there, Maya. Not in the submarine, but in the command center, watching through your helmet cameras when you made first contact. Hawthorne's hand remains on her weapon, but her posture shifts subtly, not threatening, but ready. I saw what happened to your team. I saw what you became. The memories hit Maya like a pressure wave, forcing her to her knees as her modified physiology tries to process trauma her human mind has spent 3 years suppressing. She's back in the Nereid, their experimental deep-sea vessel, watching. Her teammates transform as the entity's influence spreads through their modified nervous systems. Corporal Martinez growing gills that actually function, his eyes adapting to see in spectrums that don't exist on the surface. Sergeant Kim's bones becoming cartilaginous, allowing her to compress her body and slip through spaces that should be impossible. The others changing in ways that made them perfect for underwater combat and utterly incompatible with human society. They didn't die, Maya gasps, the truth forcing itself past her psychological barriers. They couldn't come back. The modifications, they went too far. They became something else. And you? The general crouches beside her, close enough that Maya can see the faint scarring around her hairline, surgical scars, carefully hidden, but unmistakable to someone who's undergone similar procedures. What did you become, Maya? Maya looks up, and for the first time in 3 years, she doesn't try to hide what the modifications did to her eyes. The pupils dilate beyond human norms, adapting to the armory's artificial lighting as if she's peering through miles of dark water. I became the translator, the bridge between what we were and what they are. That's why I survive, not because I was lucky, but because I was useful. The general nods slowly, her expression mixing satisfaction with something that might be sympathy. The entities you encountered, we've been monitoring their activity since your team's transformation. They're not dormant anymore, Maya. 3 months ago, our deep-sea monitoring stations started picking up massive movement in ocean trenches worldwide. The Mariana Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, the Japan Trench, they're all showing unprecedented activity. Maya's hand tightens around the twisted firing pin, and she feels it pulse with warmth that matches her heartbeat. They're waking up. All of them. More than that, they're coordinating. Our xenobiologists believe your team's contact triggered some kind of awakening protocol. The entities are preparing for something, and we need to know what. Hawthorne stands, offering Maya her hand. We need someone who can communicate with them. Someone who survived the first contact and retained enough humanity to function in our world. Maya stares at the offered hand, knowing that accepting it means abandoning the carefully constructed lie of her new life. The nightmares will become missions. The suppressed memories will become intelligence briefings. The modification she's hidden will become weapons in a war she never wanted to fight. What makes you think I have a choice? She asks, taking the general's hand and allowing herself to be pulled to her feet. Hawthorne's smile is sharp as a shark's tooth. Because 3 hours ago, every deep-sea monitoring station on the planet detected the same signal, a low-frequency pulse that matches the one recorded during your team's final transmission. They're calling, Maya, and something tells me they're calling for you. The twisted firing pin burns against Maya's palm like a brand, and she realizes with crystalline clarity that her 3 years of hiding are over. The deep remembers its children, and it's time to come home. Behind locked doors, General Hawthorne reveals she's part of a shadow organization that's been tracking the aftermath of Operation Deep Strike. Maya learns her random army assignment was orchestrated. They've been watching her, waiting for the right moment. The general shows Maya classified satellite feeds of massive underwater structures rising from ocean floors worldwide, and sonar recordings of sounds that match what Maya heard before her team was slaughtered. The creatures they encountered weren't just defending territory. They were scouts for something much larger. Maya realizes her survival wasn't luck. She was deliberately spared to serve as a living beacon, her modified DNA calling to the entities below. The general offers her a choice: help them prepare humanity's defenses, or watch civilization fall when the Deep Ones answer her unwitting summons. The general leads Maya through a maze of corridors that shouldn't exist beneath. Forward operating. Base Sentinel. Maya's enhanced senses pick up the subtle wrongness immediately. The walls are too thick, the air circulation too sophisticated, and the electromagnetic shielding too advanced for a standard military installation. Her modified nervous system detects pressure changes that suggest they're descending far deeper than the base's official blueprints would allow. Project Leviathan, Hawthorne explains, as they pass through multiple security checkpoints, each requiring biometric scans that make Maya's skin crawl. Established 72 hours after your team's final transmission. Our mandate is simple: understand the threat, prepare countermeasures, and prevent humanity's extinction. They enter a command center that rivals anything Maya saw during her classified Navy service. Banks of monitors display real-time feeds from underwater installations around the globe, while technicians wearing headsets speak in hushed tones about thermal anomalies and structural manifestations. The air hums with the kind of energy that makes Maya's modified cells vibrate in recognition, the same frequency she felt in the depths of the Mariana Trench. Your assignment to this base wasn't coincidental, the general continues, gesturing to a wall-mounted display showing Maya's complete service record, including sections that were supposed to be permanently classified. We've been monitoring your biometrics, your sleep patterns, your stress responses, every nightmare you've had, every moment of unexplained anxiety, every time your modifications activated without conscious control. We've been recording it all. Maya feels violated in ways that go beyond mere surveillance. You've been watching me for 3 years? While I thought I was going insane, while you were serving as our early warning system. Hawthorne activates a holographic display that fills the center of the room with a 3-dimensional map of Earth's ocean floors. Pulsing red dots mark locations across every major trench and abyssal plain. Every time you had what you called a nightmare, these locations showed increased activity. Your modified nervous system has been in constant communication with the entities below, whether you realized it or not. The hologram shifts, showing time-lapse footage from deep-sea monitoring stations. Maya watches in horror as massive structures rise from the ocean floor, not built, but grown, their organic architecture pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that match the ones she sees when she closes her eyes. The structures dwarf anything humanity has ever constructed, their tentacle-like appendages reaching toward the surface with deliberate purpose. This footage was recorded last week, a technician reports, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. The Mariana structure has grown by 30% in the past month. The others are showing similar expansion rates. Maya approaches the hologram, her enhanced vision picking up details that the human observers miss. The structures aren't random, they're positioned at specific points along tectonic fault lines. Their growth patterns following underwater current systems with mathematical precision. They're not just building, she whispers, understanding flooding through her modified consciousness. They're terraforming. Terraforming for what? Hawthorne asks, though her expression suggests she already knows the answer. For themselves. The entities I encountered, they weren't native to our oceans. They were refugees, survivors from somewhere else, somewhere that died. Maya's hand finds the twisted firing pin in her pocket, and she feels it pulse with warmth that spreads up her arm like an infection. They've been sleeping in our deep places, waiting for the right conditions to wake up and reclaim what they consider theirs. The general activates another display, this one showing sonar recordings from the past 72 hours. The audio fills the command center with sounds that make every human present wince low-frequency calls that seem to bypass the ears and resonate directly in the bones. But Maya hears something else in the cacophony, patterns and rhythms that her modified brain interprets as language. They're not just calling to each other, she says, her voice taking on harmonics that make the monitoring equipment spike. They're calling to me, to us, to anyone who carries their modifications. She turns to face Hawthorne, and her eyes reflect the hologram's light like a deep-sea predator's. How many others survived the modification process? How many other teams were there? The general's silence is answer enough. Maya realizes with growing horror that Operation Deep Strike wasn't an isolated incident. It was one of many attempts to create humanity hybrids, most of which ended in death or worse. She's not unique. She's simply the most successful experiment in a program designed to create living bridges between species. The modifications in your DNA aren't just allowing communication, Hawthorne explains, pulling up Maya's medical files. They're actively broadcasting your location, your emotional state, your memories. You've been a beacon for 3 years, calling them to the surface, whether you intended to or not. Maya staggers as the full implications hit her. Every moment of peace she's found since her transformation has been an illusion. She's been a Trojan horse, carrying the enemy's signal into the heart of human civilization. You saying this is my fault? That I'm responsible for whatever's coming? I'm saying you're the key to stopping it. The general moves to a final display, this one showing projected casualty estimates for various scenarios. The numbers are staggering billions dead in the most optimistic projections. The entities respond to you. Maya, your team's final transmission included footage of them communicating directly with your modified nervous system. You're not just a beacon. You're a translator, possibly the only one who can negotiate with them. The twisted firing pin burns against Maya's palm, and she realizes it's not just a piece of damaged metal. It's a message, a calling card left by the entities to ensure she would eventually understand her role. What exactly are you asking me to do? Help us make contact. Use your connection to establish communication protocols before they decide humanity is a threat to be eliminated. Hawthorne's expression is grim but determined. The alternative is a war we can't win against an enemy that controls 70% of our planet's surface. Maya looks around the command center at the faces of people who've dedicated their lives to preventing humanity's extinction. She thinks of her teammates, transformed beyond recognition and lost in the depths. She thinks of the billions of people living their lives unaware that ancient gods are stirring beneath the waves. And if I refuse? She asks, though she already knows the answer. Then we prepare for the end of the world as we know it, the general replies. Because with or without your cooperation, they're coming to the surface. The only question is whether they'll see us as potential allies or obstacles to be removed. The firing pin pulses one final time, and Maya feels the entity's attention focus on her like a searchlight in the abyss. The choice, she realizes, was never really hers to make. Maya discovers the real reason for her recruitment when the general leads her to a hidden facility beneath the base. In a flooded chamber, she comes face to face with one of her supposedly dead teammates, now something between human and sea. Creature, kept alive in a tank and used as a communication device with the entities below. Through gurgled words and telepathic flashes, her transformed comrade reveals that the Deep Ones aren't invading. They're reclaiming Earth from humanity's brief occupation. Maya's modifications make her the perfect translator and negotiator. But accepting the role means undergoing the same transformation that turned her friend into a living nightmare. The general gives her 24 hours to decide whether to sacrifice her humanity to potentially save her species. While outside, Reports flood in of coastal cities experiencing unusual seismic activity. The elevator descends for what feels like hours, passing through layers of rock and reinforced concrete that shouldn't exist beneath an Afghan military base. Maya's enhanced hearing picks up the sound of rushing water long before the doors open, and her modified nervous system begins to resonate with frequencies that make her teeth ache. When they finally stop, the general leads her through an airlock that hisses with the pressure differential of a deep-sea habitat. Sublevel Omega, Hawthorne announces as they enter a vast chamber carved from living rock. Officially, this facility doesn't exist. Unofficially, it's where we keep our most valuable assets. The chamber is partially flooded, its lower levels filled with seawater that glows with bioluminescent organisms Maya recognizes from the deepest ocean trenches. Monitoring equipment lines the walls, recording everything from water temperature to electromagnetic fluctuations. But it's the massive tank in the center of the room that makes Maya's blood freeze in her veins. Floating in the murky water, connected to life support systems by tubes that pulse with his heartbeat, is Corporal Danny Martinez, her teammate, her friend, supposedly killed 3 years ago in the Mariana Trench. But the thing in the tank barely resembles the man she once knew. His skin has taken on a translucent quality, revealing the modified circulatory system beneath. Gills flutter along his elongated neck, and his eyes have grown to twice their original size, adapted for the crushing darkness of the deep. Most disturbing are his limbs. His arms have elongated into something between human appendages and tentacles, while his legs have fused into a powerful tail that moves with serpentine grace. Danny? Maya's voice comes out as a whisper, but the creature in the tank responds immediately. Its massive eyes focus on her, and she feels a familiar presence brush against her modified consciousness. The same warm recognition she felt when her team first made contact with the entities. Asterisk. Maya. Asterisk. The voice doesn't come through her ears, but directly into her brain, carrying harmonics that speak of vast depths and ancient knowledge. Asterisk. You came. I knew you would come. Asterisk. Jesus Christ. Maya breathes, pressing her hands against the tank's reinforced glass. What did they do to you? Not they. Us. We chose this. Danny's transformed features shift in what might be a smile. Asterisk. The modifications. They were never meant to be temporary. We were always supposed to become bridges between worlds. Asterisk General. Hawthorne activates a recording device, her expression clinical despite the horror of the situation. Corporal Martinez has been our primary communication link with the entities for the past 18 months. His transformation accelerated after we brought him here, but his consciousness remains intact, enhanced, actually. Maya feels sick as the implications sink in. You've been experimenting on him, keeping him alive as some kind of ... translator. Not experimenting, evolving. Danny's mental voice carries undertones of something that might be contentment. Asterisk, I can see things now, Maya. The true history of this world. Humanity thinks it owns the earth, but we're just the latest tenants. The deep ones were here first, and they'll be here long after we're gone. Asterisk, the water in the tank begins to glow more brightly, and Maya realizes that Danny's bioluminescent patterns are responding to his emotional state. Through their shared connection, she feels flashes of his memories, not just from their mission, but from the eons of history the entities have shared with him. She sees Earth as it was millions of years ago, when vast cities covered the ocean. Floors and beings of impossible beauty ruled from coral thrones. She sees the great dying that drove them into hibernation, and their patient wait for the right conditions to return. Asterisk. They're not invaders, Maya. They're refugees coming home. Asterisk. Home? Maya pulls back from the tank, her enhanced senses reeling. From the psychic contact, this is our world now. Humanity has built civilizations, created art, developed science. In the blink of an eye, Danny's transformed features show something like pity. Asterisk. Your entire species has existed for less time than they spend in a single dream cycle. To them, your bacteria that learn to build cities. Asterisk. General Hawthorne steps forward, her expression grim. The entities have been remarkably patient, according to Martinez. They've been studying humanity through our deep-sea exploration, learning our languages and customs. But their patience is running out. Maya feels another wave of psychic contact from Danny, this one carrying images that make her stagger. Coastal cities swallowed by tsunamis that rise from perfectly calm seas. Underwater structures breaking. The surface like massive flowers blooming in reverse. Humans fleeing inland as the oceans reclaim the continents, guided by beings whose beauty and terror are beyond human comprehension. Asterisk. It doesn't have to be violent. Danny continues, his mental voice taking on an urgent quality. Asterisk. They're willing to negotiate, to find a way for both species to coexist. But they need someone who can speak for humanity, someone who understands both worlds. Asterisk. Someone like you, Hawthorne says, turning to Maya. Your modifications are more advanced than Martinez's were at this stage. With the right enhancements, you could become a true ambassador between species. Maya looks at her transformed teammate, seeing her own potential future reflected in his alien features. You're asking me to give up my humanity, to become like him. It's not giving up, Danny insists. Asterisk. It's becoming more. I can breathe water and air, see across spectrums you can't imagine, communicate with minds that span galaxies. I'm still me. Maya just ... expanded ... asterisk. The general activates another display, showing real-time feeds from coastal monitoring stations around the world. The images are terrifying massive shapes moving beneath the waves, underwater structures breaking the surface, and most disturbing of all, reports of people walking into the ocean and not coming back up, their bodies somehow adapted to breathe underwater. The transformation is already beginning, Hawthorne explains. People with certain genetic markers are being recruited. The entities are building their surface population one convert at a time. We estimate we have perhaps weeks before they make their presence known to the general population. Maya feels the twisted firing pin burning in her pocket, and she realizes it's not just a message, it's a key, designed to unlock the final stage of her modifications when she's ready to accept her role. What exactly are you asking me to do? Undergo the complete transformation. Become their primary ambassador to humanity. Help negotiate terms that might allow our species to survive what's coming. The general's voice is steady, but Maya can see the desperation in her eyes. The alternative is extinction, either theirs or ours. Choose quickly. Danny's mental voice carries new urgency. Asterisk. They're growing impatient. The deep cities are rising, and soon they won't need ambassadors. They'll simply take what was always theirs. Asterisk. Maya looks around the chamber, at the monitoring equipment recording every moment of this impossible conversation. At the general, who's asking her to sacrifice everything she is for the slim chance of saving her species. Through the psychic link with Danny, she feels the vast intelligence of the entities turning their attention toward the surface world. Ancient minds awakening from eons of slumber with purposes that dwarf human understanding. How long do I have to decide? She asks, though part of her already knows the answer. 24 hours, Hawthorne replies. After that, the entities begin their final ascent, whether we're ready or not. Maya nods slowly, feeling the weight of two worlds pressing down on her shoulders. In her pocket, the firing pin pulses with the rhythm of a heart that beats in harmony with the deepest trenches of the ocean, calling her home to a place she's never been but somehow remembers. The choice, she realizes, was made the moment she first drew breath through modified gills in the crushing darkness of the deep. Now she just has to find the courage to accept it. Maya makes her choice at dawn, but not the one anyone expects. Instead of accepting transformation or fleeing, she steals experimental deep-sea equipment and heads for the nearest ocean trench, planning to confront the entities directly while still human. She broadcasts her location to both the General's organization and every major government, ensuring the world will witness whatever happens next. As she descends into crushing darkness, her Kraken patch begins to glow with bioluminescent patterns that match the creatures surrounding her submersible. The story ends with Maya's final transmission, as massive shapes rise from the deep knot to destroy, but to judge whether humanity deserves to share the planet they once ruled. Her last words crackle through the radio. They're not monsters. They're the landlords, and our lease is up. Maya stands on the deck of the research vessel Kyosto 2 as the sun breaks over the Pacific horizon, watching her stolen submersible being lowered into waters that conceal horrors beyond human imagination. She spent the last 18 hours in a frenzy of preparation hacking military databases, broadcasting encrypted messages to every intelligence agency on Earth, and jury-rigging communication equipment that will ensure her final moments reach the surface world. The twisted firing pin now rests in a specially modified housing within the submersible's hull, its alien metal interfacing with human technology in ways that shouldn't be possible. Maya's Kraken patch has been moved to the outside of her dive suit, its embroidered tentacles seeming to writhe in the morning light. She can feel Danny's presence in her mind, a constant whisper of concern and admiration transmitted from his sons tank thousands of miles away. You don't have to do this alone. His mental voice carries across impossible distances. Asterisk. Let them complete your transformation. Become what you were meant to be. Asterisk. I have to try this first, Maya whispers, knowing he can hear her thoughts as clearly as spoken words. If I'm going to speak for humanity, I need to do it as a human, not as something caught between worlds. The Vidsen Submersible Nereid 3 is a marvel of engineering, designed to withstand pressures that would crush conventional vessels like tin cans. Maya has modified its communication array with components that pulse in harmony with her own biorhythms, creating a bridge between human technology and the alien frequencies that call from the deep. As she seals herself into the pilot's chamber, she activates a dead man switch that will broadcast everything to the surface if her vital signs flatline. This is Staff Sergeant Maya Chun, serial number 2847 Delta Kraken, beginning descent to coordinates 36.2N, 120.9, Monterey Canyon Deep. Her voice carries across every emergency frequency on Earth, transmitted simultaneously to the Pentagon, the Kremlin, Beijing, and a dozen other capitals. I am attempting first contact with entities of unknown origin currently rising from deep ocean trenches worldwide. This transmission is being recorded and will continue until mission completion or ... termination. The submersible drops through layers of sunlight into the eternal darkness of the deep ocean. Maya's enhanced vision adapts automatically, picking up bioluminescent trails that spiral around her vessel like living galaxies. At 2,000 feet, her instruments detect the first artificial structures, not built by human hands, but grown from some organic technology that defies classification. Massive spires twist upward from the canyon floor, their surfaces pulsing with patterns that match the rhythm of her own heartbeat. Asterisk. They know you're coming. Danny's mental voice carries new harmonics, as if he's translating for minds too vast for human comprehension. The Deep Council is curious. They've never had a human approach them voluntarily. Tell them I come as a representative of my species, Maya broadcasts, knowing her words are being heard in the depths and on the surface simultaneously. Tell Them we want to understand. At 5,000 feet, the submersible's lights illuminate something that makes Maya's breath catch in her throat. A city rises from the canyon floor, not ruins, but a living metropolis that pulses with its own internal light. Structures that might be buildings or might be creatures undulate in the current, their forms shifting between architectural and biological. And moving through the water streets with impossible grace are the entities themselves. Maya has seen them before in the crushing darkness of the Mariana Trench, but never like this. In their own environment, they're not the terrifying predators her nightmares painted them as. They're beautiful. Their forms flowing between states of matter, like living water giving consciousness. Some are vast as whales, others delicate as jellyfish, but all share the same alien intelligence that speaks of eons spent in contemplation of mysteries humanity has yet to discover. The Kraken patch on her suit begins to glow. It's embroidered, tentacles taking on the same bioluminescent patterns as the creatures surrounding her vessel. Maya feels her modified nervous system resonating with frequencies that bypass language entirely, carrying meaning directly into her consciousness. The entities aren't speaking to her. They're sharing their memories, their history, their perspective. On the brief flicker of time that encompasses all of human civilization, she sees Earth as it was before the first humans walked upright oceans teeming with cities that dwarf anything humanity has built. Beings of impossible beauty, creating art from living coral and composing symphonies from whale song. She sees the great catastrophe that drove them into hibernation, a cosmic event that boiled away their atmosphere and forced them to retreat into the deepest trenches to wait for the world to heal. My God, Maya whispers, her words transmitted to a world that's watching in stunned silence. They're not invaders. They're the original inhabitants. We're the ones who moved into their house while they were sleeping. The largest of the entities approaches her submersible, its form shifting between octopus and something that might once have been humanoid. When it speaks, the words bypass her ears entirely, resonating directly in her bones with the authority of geological ages. Asterisk, child of two worlds, you carry our gift but remain unchanged. Why do you resist what you were meant to become? Asterisk Maya's hands shake as she responds, knowing that billions of people are hanging on her every word. Because I need to speak for my species as one of them. If I transform, I become something else, something between human and ... you. How can I represent humanity if I'm no longer human? Asterisk your species builds upon our ruins and calls IT progress. Your cities poison our waters. Your machines disturb our sleep. Yet you speak of representation. Asterisk, because we didn't know. Maya says, her voice breaking with the weight of revelation. We thought we were alone. We thought this world was ours by right of intelligence, not by inheritance. If we had known. The entity's form shifts, and Maya feels something that might be amusement ripple through the psychic connection. Asterisk ignorance is not absolution, but IT is explanation. Your species is young, perhaps teachable. Asterisk around her submersible. The city begins to rise. Not attacking, not destroying, but ascending toward the surface with the slow inevitability of a geological event. Maya realizes she's witnessing the end of one age and the beginning of another. The moment when humanity learns it shares its world with minds older than continents. What do you want from us? She asks, her final question carrying the hopes and fears of her entire species. Asterisk coexistence. Your species has potential brief. Lives but intense creativity. We would ... collaborate. Share knowledge. Guide your growth. But first, your kind must accept their place in the greater hierarchy. Asterisk Maya looks up through the submersible's viewport, seeing the surface far above beginning to glow with bioluminescent patterns as the deep cities break through into sunlight. For the first time in millions of years, her final transmission crackles with static as alien energies interfere with human technology. This is Maya Chun, reporting first successful contact with Earth's original inhabitants. They're not here to destroy us. They're here to reclaim their world and decide if we're worthy tenants. Her voice grows faint as the submersible systems begin to fail, overwhelmed by the psychic energy surrounding her. They're not monsters. They're the landlords, and our lease is up. The transmission cuts to static as Maya's submersible is, gently enveloped by the rising city, carried toward a surface world that will never be the same. Above, coastal populations watch in awe and terror as impossible spires break through the waves, heralding the dawn of an age when humanity must learn to share its world with gods from the deep dot in her final moments of consciousness. Maya feels the entities offer resonating through her modified cells, not transformation, but translation, not conquest, but negotiation. The choice, as always, belongs to humanity. But now, at least, they'll make it with full knowledge of what they're choosing between. The deep remembers its children, and it's time for the surface world to remember its place in the vast hierarchy of existence that stars.